I am so grateful to be dancing here in London for the first time. It is a big honor. I've met Jamiel because he is the husband of a dear friend who I'm working with in Paris, and he has this wonderful program called Ballet Nights. And I was very honored to receive the invitation to make my London debut here for him. I will be dancing a brand new choreography by Constant Vigier, and it's a solo that he created for me on the music of Glinka. And it's really, really special to, one, be able to have the opportunity to have a solo made on you. It's just kind of something that fits you like a glove. And two, I connected with the music because I think that it represents my personality well, and also I think that it touches a part of me that is a bit sentimental for the days that I spent growing up in Russia. So after I left Russia, I had the very unique opportunity to have a small contract with the Paris Opera, and that was such an incredible opportunity for me because as somebody who was leaving a style and a world where I was already established, that exercise of humbling oneself and being open to all corrections and a change of style, I think was something that helped me improve not only as a human, but as a dancer. And I have such a huge respect for the Paris Opera, and I just thought, like, having the opportunity to dance in somewhere that is just so famous and so renowned, and being able to just glimpse on the inside of and see those traditions firsthand, I couldn't say no to that opportunity. And yes, it is challenging as someone who's used to dancing principal roles to go back into the corps de ballet, but I have such a big respect for the hard work and the precision that the Paris Opera corps de ballet works with, that it changed, and it actually helped me improve as a dancer with spatial awareness and being a choreographer or working with choreographers, understanding how to place myself on stage and be part of a group. And so I think that it's only enriched me as a dancer. And if I had the opportunity to stay, I would have absolutely said yes, but such is life. The Paris Opera is quite strict with their traditions, and I did the annual audition, and I passed to the end. So I got contacted by them, and I received an invitation to do their Balanchine production with a woman, Pat Neary, who I've known her all my life. So getting to dance for her and to dance Ballet Imperial, that was absolutely incredible, and who cares. And this year I passed the audition again, but I haven't received a contract, and I don't know, like, we'll see. I'm very happy being freelance. But if I had the opportunity to be back in a company, I would say 100% yes. I was born in California in a very large family, and I have 9 brothers and sisters. And I actually don't have any siblings who dance professionally. I had one sister who she danced, but she didn't pursue it as a profession, and I have a brother now who is pursuing a career as an opera performer. So everyone else is an engineer and has sensible jobs. After starting my dance training seriously in Southern California, I had the opportunity to have a scholarship with the Kirov Academy, which is now defunct. And that was a great school, but it was quite expensive. And seeing as I had a large family, we didn't really have the money for me to pursue dance training seriously. So it came to a year where I really had to make a choice whether I was going to go back to school and try to find a place in university or pursue dancing. And I auditioned for JKO school, and I sent after a masterclass with the Bolshoi teachers in New York, I spoke with one of the teachers, and she recommended me to send an audition video. So I knew that I was accepted not only to the summer course, but also to the year-round program. But what was so great in those days with the Bolshoi Academy Summer Intensive is you had teachers from the school, and it just so happened that the year that I went to the summer program, a very famous Soviet ballerina, Natalia Arkhipova, was choosing dancers for her class for her first course level, and she invited me with the blessing of Marina Leonova, who actually happened to be there as well. And I got placed into a Russian class, and I was so grateful for that opportunity that I had at a young age to go. I didn't think that something like that would happen twice, so I really kind of told my parents, this is my chance, I have to go, and this is what is meant for me. My first impressions when I arrived in Moscow were, of course, shock and awe. I was a huge fan of Natalia Osipova. I still am today. She's one of my favorite artists. But I remember seeing an old documentary of her as a young student in the academy, and I remember thinking, oh, wow, these are the same walls that she walked in. And I put a lot of pressure on myself, and so I wanted to learn as quickly as I could. So I think I was overwhelmed with the level that I was holding myself to. In terms of learning the Russian language, I had grown up in the US, and in the United States we don't really need to speak another language besides English. And here I was starting a class where I was one of the only foreigners, and my teacher was quite strict with me. She said if I didn't learn Russian within 3 months, she would push me to the foreigner class. And so I really woke up at 5 a.m. I tried not to have friends who were English speakers. I tried to speak, and I learned Russian quickly. And now, since learning Russian at a young age, I think it's shifted my brain into a brain that learns languages quickly. My graduation performance with Bolshoi Academy is a performance that I will never forget. The rest I had the great honor of performing Paquita, the lead role, and on the historical stage. So they had just renovated the historical stage, and it was the most comfortable stage to this day that I've ever danced on. I mean, Paris Opera is wonderful, but the Bolshoi, there is something so beautiful about the way that the orchestra sounds when you're dancing on stage, and you can just see right into the SARS box. And I just remember feeling I don't have an ounce of stage fright, and I just felt so free to dance. And I loved the music of the Paquita Parada, and I was dancing with a wonderful partner, and it was something that I felt really suited me. And it was less about technique and more about artistry, and I felt, that is one performance that I can say I'm proud of my performance in that one. When I graduated from Bolshoi Ballet Academy, I joined the company. It was a tumultuous period in the company's history, and at the advice of one of my amazing teachers, Marina Kondratьева, who sadly recently passed away, I received an invitation to join the Kremlin Ballet. And I had the opportunity to perform principal roles at a very young age. And so this was something that, I do think that in a dancer's career, the first couple of years after school are quite a hard adjustment into company life. And so having the opportunity to have a coach who was assigned to me and to work on repertoire that I really enjoyed dancing, it was a better fit for me at that time in my life. And without the Kremlin Ballet Company, I wouldn't be the dancer I am today. And I absolutely loved the challenges in that company. The director, who sadly also has recently passed away, was a choreographer. And so to be able to have that opportunity to have roles made on you, as well as dancing the great classics of Grigorievich and Petipa, I felt like I got a great foundation as a classical dancer in that company. I had already been in the Kremlin Ballet for many years. I had been promoted to principal, and I had danced a lot of the repertoire that was something that was, it didn't change very often. And I had a coach who was pushing me to do international competitions. I did well in those international competitions, and at one of them in Korea, where I won a gold medal, the director of the company approached me, and I, at that point, really wanted to, challenge myself in a different way, Two, I had always admired the Korean dancers I knew for their work ethic, and I wanted to become a dancer that could learn any style quickly. And I knew that in Russia, in some ways, I was kind of babied. Like my coach, she would just walk through it with a video with me. I was so privileged. I didn't realize that at that point. And I had a talk with her and I said, look, I think this is gonna help me elevate as a dancer who can really hold her own in the international scale, and I think that I need this. And that was a hard thing. And I spent some time in Korea, and what I learned in Korea was not only how to work in a professional company without a coach assigned to you, but also appreciate what I had in Russia. And so there came a point where I kind of was missing out on a lot of invitations to do different guestings, and it was quite expensive to live in Korea, and I made the choice to go back to Russia with the new skills that I had found in Korea. And I sort of was more content and had more maturity to be able to value what I had as a dancer. I couldn't see it before, and it took me going there to see, wow, I am really lucky. I have great people behind me. I have amazing partners, and I wanted to try something that would push me. And I felt like I wasn't being challenged enough, which that's crazy, but when you're like 23, you have weird ideas about you know. And I was fascinated with Asia. I mean, I love Asian countries, and I love Korea, and yeah. The Boston Ballet invitation was very random. At that point, I was doing a lot of freelancing, and I had a person who I looked up to in my life say, you really need to go back into a company, you're too young to freelance, and I received a call from Mikhail, and I kind of on a whim said yes. And I have to say that as much as I loved my time in Boston Ballet, that was the year that the pandemic happened, and again, it was a very clarifying moment for me. I was like, I know I need to be in Russia. This is where I feel happy, this is where I feel artistically challenged. And so when the pandemic kind of shut everything down, things were still going on in Russia. And so I had an offer from one of my old partners, Misha Martinuk, and Dmitry Gudanov, who was a principal dancer with Bolshoi. And he was offered the role of artistic director of a company that I had guested with called Astrakhan Ballet. And he said, look, I want you to come back as a principal dancer, and I want you to be my assistant. And you'll help learn how to run a company, you'll help implement some of those things that you've learned in the West and in the East, like injury prevention, how to condition yourself. And so I took my things and I ran right back to Russia, and we got to work. The company in Astrakhan was very young, and they knew nothing about how to warm up before class, and they had such a high injury rate. And we just started to do floor bar and started to do just different strengthening exercises, and that was really cool to see a lot of the dancers not only get stronger, but also start to realize that, oh, I'm not having to like be injured and spend as much time in, out of performing. And sadly, that came to an end when the war started. I actually was just completing the choreography on a film based on my life called Trojka, or in the West, The American. And I was in Poland at the time and had to make a decision, would I go back? And because of what my husband does for work, we were kind of in a rock and a hard place. And something I've had my whole life is I try to make decisions with a sense of integrity, and I couldn't make peace with what was happening, and it was a very scary moment in time. So I made the very, very difficult decision to leave, and although I didn't want to at the time, and I kind of knew that I was almost putting a nail in my own career. At that time, there were so many Ukrainians who were displaced. Many companies were overwhelmed. It was just after COVID. I mean, COVID and the war kind of interlapped just like that, and companies were underfunded. and they were trying to do their best to help a lot of the Ukrainian refugees. So overnight I was without a job, without a place to live, and it started a very difficult 2-year period where I didn't really know what I was doing. Honestly, I think that's like, for me, when it came to making a decision about my career, I really did measure it against my own conscience and thought, you know, in 5 to 10 years' time, depending how much, you know, health I have, how much luck I have, am I going to be remembered for being somebody who was loyal to a regime that killed people, or am I going to be remembered for maybe making a difficult decision, but always standing up for human rights, for integrity and honesty, you know? And I do feel, as a dancer, when we go on stage, we're showing a bit of our soul, and I didn't want to step over a line and blacken my own soul. As difficult as it was, as comfortable as my life was, and I always think that things happen for a reason, and I have grown so much as a dancer in the past 3 years. Opportunities that I would have never expected have come, and I think when you live with a sense of gratitude each day, you take each performance as if it's your last, and you try to really be present and really enjoy your dancing when you're given an opportunity to. I can't lie, I think I'm very much heartbroken, because I absolutely love the tradition that I was brought up in Russia, but I do have a hope, and I do believe that ballet and art is something that can knit cultures back together, and that when peace does come, because I do believe it will come, ballet is one of the ways we can find a way back to each other. I'm so grateful because I've gotten to really dance in so many places and in so many different styles, and now based in Paris, I really feel like I've adopted that kind of French style, and I really love it. And I mean, but I do hope one day to be able to provide opportunities for dancers. And you know, I've started my own nonprofit foundation, and we offer scholarships to young students. We support Prix de Lausanne, and so I'm hoping to fundraise for that so that we can give back, because I was supported by a woman who had some extra finances laying around, and she really did support me through my studies, and I made a promise to myself that if I was ever in the position of being able to help, that I would. So I think that's where I see my future. I'd love to be somebody that can be a force for good and a force for the right kind of change in our industry, because it's quite a hard career to be a dancer. You face a lot of rejection, and there's a lot of people have subjective opinions, and I hope that our foundation can encourage young dancers and be a place where we can sow the right kind of sentiments into people's careers. I mean, I love the Paris Opera. Like, I fell absolutely in love with that company, and I love the dancers, the teachers, the company class for me is the best in the world. And so now I have a coach called Jamiel, who was a famous dancer in the 80s. He was never an étoile. He should have been, but there was still racism in that time. And he now coaches me on a daily basis, and I've been so lucky to just work with him. And I changed my point shoes. I changed my, you know, he really has such a heart for dancers who don't have a place or haven't had the greatest luck. And he kind of, you know, there's so many times I've been like, Jean-Marie, I'm going to quit. Like, I can't do it anymore. I can't send any more audition videos and not be answered, you know, like this. And he's like, no, let's see that variation again. Like, you know? And I'm just so grateful for people like that in the world, who are just so loving and so encouraging. And you know, I can't think of a world without him in a lot of ways. You know? So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. And so just being able to get to be here and be, like, we walked around the Covent Garden, the Royal Opera House. I'd never even seen it. So that was just like such a fun moment for me yesterday. And you know, who knows what happens in the future, but you know, I'm very happy to be here.